regarding taking over the driver's licensing function altogether at some point. I believe there was language added in there regarding being able to accept cash, so that we would have to have registers, and we would also maybe have some mobile units. I believe there was an additional $3 million for those additional responsibilities added on to the $15 million that was funded in this last budget.
Okay. I'm going to ask a few more questions. The mobile units, you said that the legislation says they be in the counties a number of times. Is there a minimum number of times? What is your thinking? How often will these mobile units visit the counties that don't have a regional office?
The legislation itself requires, based on the county population, requires X certain number of times. And I'm sorry, I can't recall those numbers right now. But for instance, if a regional office were located in Fayette, we're required not obviously to visit Fayette, but we're required to visit we're required to visit Scott County X number of times. If I recall, it's a monthly, a yearly number of times a year. And I want to say it's 3, 4, and 5 based on county population.
Okay. How many of these mobile units will we own?
We will end up owning, I think the first go at them is going to be 8. Now, we got with our vendor, a certain number came with the contract that we did for the new system, but we upped those mobile units once we found how active we were going to be across the state with mobile units to meet the requirements of House Bill 453. And so I think it's a total of 8 currently. And if we assess we need more, then we will.
Okay. And my last question, and I've brought this up before, and I just want to stay on top of it because I think as we promised folks that we would have a renewal of a driver's license by mail and online. Are those issues being addressed? And you? We are definitely working on that. Okay. Well,
and if anything, the pandemic has brought that even more into focus.
Okay. Well, every time we speak, that's a question I'll ask you because I want to make sure that that's ready to go because, again, that promise was made when this debate was going on when we passed the legislation. I know that was one of the, not selling point, but I guess is one of the defensive measures we used, that there was a promise that this would be available online and by mail.
Yes. We are working on that, and that's something we have to work with the vendor on. But it is being worked on. I think the mobile phone renewal is much further off. Not much, but it's further off. But some form of online renewal, we definitely are working towards.
Okay, Representative Heverin is in her office, I believe. She has a question for you.
Thank you.
Oh, I don't. I'm sorry. I just put the chat that I was here. I'm sorry, Senator. Sorry, Sarah.
That's all right. It's nice to hear your voice.
That's my mistake. You're counted as present. That wasn't a question. So anyone else on the committee have a question? Seeing none, Sarah, you've answered all of our questions, and we appreciate the update. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us, and feel free to reach out if you have any concerns or questions. You all are as much of a partnership of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan McLean, back to you. Are you with us now?
I am. Thank you.
All right. Well, Megan, please introduce yourself for the record, and please proceed. The floor is yours. Okay, we're having an audio issue.
Can you hear me now?
Did you say, can I hear you now? I can't.
Yes, now.
Okay, that's better.
Okay, we'll do that. Okay, I was asked to provide an update on COVID's impact on our ability of the ability of the school system in the Louisville area to cover an update on procurement for a new toll vendor and on a lawsuit. So I'll get started on that. We have seen a reduction in traffic with the Healthy at Home effort. Things are improving now that we have entered Healthy at Work. In April, traffic was down on procurement for a new toll vendor and on a law firm. So I'll get started on that. It's heading in the right direction. We have seen a reduction in traffic as part of COVID-19 efforts to prevent the spread of COVID-19. We did close our local walk-up centers in both in Kentucky and in Indiana. We are working to make sure that we are ready to be open now following the
Megan, your our connection is very bad. Are you on a cell phone or a landline?
I'm on a cell phone. Maybe we could go to John and I'll try to make it work for my.
Yeah, we're going, Megan, we're going to skip over to our next presenter, and hopefully maybe we can come up with a better way to, because you're not coming through in a fashion that you're understandable on our end.
Okay.
Okay. John Wilcoxon, Assistant State Highway Engineer, Department of Highways. John, are you available?
Yes. Hope you can hear me okay.
We can hear you fine. That's good. So please identify yourself for the record and please proceed.
Sure. I'm John Wilcoxon, Assistant State Highway Engineer for Project Delivery and Preservation within the Department of Highways. And I'm here to talk about the steps we've taken in our maintenance area to reduce expenditures. Department of Highways began efforts to reduce maintenance expenditures in April, and one of the first things we took on was to put our county maintenance crews on alternating shifts such that half the crew was on call at any given time and the other crew was actually on site. And this allowed us to reduce the number of personnel that would be interacting with each other and risking exposure. And from a budgetary perspective, it also helped us to reduce some overtime costs, obviously. The next step we took was to reduce our maintenance activities for anything that wasn't an immediate safety or concern or an urgent need. And so we cut back on our pavement, patching, and our shoulder work. We deferred any non-critical upgrades for traffic signals and markings. We modified our mowing activities to reduce the number of acres that we were mowing. This is something that a lot of people may have noticed. We worked with our contractors to modify those contracts such that we were doing what we call a type 2 mowing cycle, where we only mow about a 15-foot swath along the edge of the shoulder instead of mowing the full width from fence line to fence line. And that alone saved us about $1.7 million in mowing costs. Essentially, we gave our district engineers the direction that they should only focus on immediate safety. And so what we stressed is we didn't want to reduce our efforts for anything that might represent a safety concern, like guardrail repair, replacing stop signs or warning signs, removing dangerous trees, mowing intersections where we might have problems with visibility. So we told them we want to continue with those things and where possible, try to reduce expenditures elsewhere. And those are just some of the activities that we told them to continue with, but we also want them to use their discretion on any other items that may arise that represent a safety concern. And looking across the major areas of work, we spent about $15 million less in 2020 during May and June than over the same period last year. So that's a significant reduction. But I do want to stress that with the exception of mowing, most of these savings are only temporary. We can't permanently defer repairs to roadways, bridges, and other assets. So essentially, these are liabilities we still carry and we'll have to address at some point in the future. Another issue that has compounded the impact on our conditions has been the reduction in our resurfacing program this year. We did award some projects at the end of 2019 that are going on this year, but we subsequently had to suspend some of the work on those projects, and the total amount of resurfacing we're going to be doing this year is dramatically reduced from typical years. And so that means that our existing backlog of pavement needs is going to be even greater in coming years. And we're likely going to see the impact of these reductions for some time. It's not going to be something where our condition returns to normal once spending is freed up a little bit. I do want to give thanks to all of our personnel for their efforts in meeting these challenges. And also want to give credit to our contracting community for their cooperation as well. The reductions we made in mowing, resurfacing, and other areas obviously have a significant impact on those businesses. And while it has been difficult, they have risen to the challenge and been very helpful in working with them. And one final thing I want to mention, it's not necessarily budget related, but just a reminder of some of the things that we have facing us coming up. I know it's only July now, but we're already starting to think about preparation for winter. And I had one of my chiefs called me yesterday to discuss an issue he was concerned with, where he had a COVID test result in one of his crews, and as a result had to send most of the crew home, or actually an entire crew. And he brought up a good point that what if that happens during the winter when we have a snow event and we have to send an entire county home? So we're going to start plans now to address that, to figure out how we can modify our response and shift crews from adjacent counties, adjacent districts, perhaps stretching some of our contracts into other areas if we do have something like that come up. So we are making plans. Hope that doesn't happen, but I think it's prudent to be taking those steps now. And that's all I had. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Okay, well, thank you for that update. I guess one thing I was curious about, and you mentioned winter approaching. I don't think you used a lot of salt last winter. Will that be a relief on the budget, not purchasing? Have a need to purchase a lot of salt going into the winter?
Well, a couple of things keep in mind. So I looked into this, and last winter we spent about $27 million, which is low for us. I think on average we spend about $44 million in an average winter. Obviously, last year was one of the mildest winters we've had in memory. But one thing to keep in mind is that because we do so much of our work by contract and we have to pay those contractors to be available, we have a lot of sunk costs that we incur regardless of whether or not it snows. Last year we spent, I think, about $12.7 million on contract costs for our retrofit fees just to have those contractors available. Another issue we have is when we set up those contracts for salt, we have to guarantee a certain minimum. If we don't do that, then the prices come in significantly higher. So we will guarantee that we'll buy a certain amount. And this year we are still filling some of those orders, and we're having to store some of that salt in the mega caverns in Louisville because we didn't have enough room in our district. So we still have a lot of those expenses that we're having to incur. The fact that we didn't have to use the salt means that we will have it on hand, and so it's available to us next year, and that obviously is better than having to spend it and use it and not have it available. But we still incurred a significant cost for salt simply because of the way those contracts have to be set up.
Okay, thank you, John. Any questions? John, seeing no questions, thank you for your report, and thanks for all that you do, and appreciate your service to the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Megan, we're back to you. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Megan, it's not working. So what we're going to do, Megan, we're going to put you, okay, say again.
Because I can't hear you now because I turned off my phone. I can't hear you guys now.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Okay, Megan, we're going to put you on the agenda for next month. And so our meeting next month, Megan, you can make note, as August the 19th. And as long as things progress nicely, we'll be back here August the 19th. Is there any member that's present now that didn't check in for roll call? It'd be a good time for you to chime in. Robin, we have you counted as present. Any final questions or any final comments? Motion to adjourn? We have a motion and to adjourn, and we are adjourned.